So this talk, for those that don't know, I'm pretty involved in the CFP process, the program committee process for how we select the talks and set the technical program. And this talk was kind of an interesting one that spurred some discussion amongst the program chair committee. And I believe the initial title was something about like how to raise hackers or how something close to that. And it turned out that a lot of the discussion that we had in there was that it was it wasn't the content itself, but some of the wording was like very prescriptive, like this is the way to make hackers. And of course that's not what the intention was, and we kind of went back and forth with James and Anthony and Becca here about their intent and talked about the messaging of it. But we definitely wanted something like this. We wanted to have this content of like war stories, like example stories about success on how to grow the community literally, like how to do it. So I think that they'll have some great stories, and of course it's not like prescriptive guidance, but it'd be great to learn like at least a couple of use cases on what success looks like here. And with that, I'll hand it over to you guys.
Hey, so thank you so much. We're really excited to be here. My kids are excited to be here as well. Anthony, maybe I'll talk about this a little bit later, he has been here before. This is Becca's first time. But my name is Jared Bernard. I teach at Metropolitan Community College at the South Campus, if you're familiar with Metro. And so I teach cybersecurity classes there. I teach Cisco networking. I teach Linux courses. I teach some Python as well. That's kind of my wheelhouse there. And I'm a father of 5. I have 5 kids. 2 of them are with me today. There are 2 boys in between these 2, and then a younger boy, which means Becca is the only girl, which she does well with that. I think she wishes she had a sister sometimes. So that's me. I'll have them introduce themselves, and we'll kind of start.
Yeah, I'm Anthony Bernard. My last ChronoCon was 2020, the year that everything shut down, so first in-person conference. And I am a student in high school, junior, and I just enjoy messing around with technology and hacking different things and learning how things work.
And I guess I'm Rebekah Bernard, and I like music and art, and I'm really excited to be at ChronoCon, I guess. And I like the game Cookie Clicker, and I'll show you a hack later, I guess.
All right. So I want to explain a little bit why we're here. As I mentioned, I teach at Metro Community College, and I interact with a lot of students, obviously. And I've noticed a lot of my students, some of them, I should say, I think it's a nice bell curve, but there's definitely a good percentage of students who struggle with certain aspects of things, particularly problem solving, critical thinking, and things like that. This is a discussion we're always having as educators, how we can help promote that and things like that. So I want to share one story, and then I'll kind of share some stories with my kids as well. Is I had a particular student, this just happened very recently, where I had them using VirtualBox here to set up a pfSense firewall, right? And so I allowed him just the freedom to go and do that any way he wanted to do that. And it was taking him quite a bit of time to do that. And I went in after a few hours and check in on him and go, how's it going? Installing pfSense. He goes like, oh, I'm struggling. I've had to install it 12 times. And I go like, 12 times, wow, okay, that's kind of a lot, right? And I go, well, what's the situation? What's going on? And he goes like, well, every time it installs, it needs to reboot, and then it goes back into the installer, right? And a lot of you guys are already probably knowing what's going on here, right? But it was confusing him a bit. And I go like, well, what have you done besides just going through the installer again, right? He goes, nothing. I guess he thought things would change, the next time he tried to install it. And so he struggled with that a bit. So I was trying to direct him the right way. Like I said, I feel like I understood what was happening, but I didn't want to just give him the answer. So I told him, go online. I go, you probably need to do some research, right? And so look and see what you can find out, right? And so he did that, and I left him alone to do that, trust him in that. I come back to him, and he's in the BIOS or the UFI of the host system. And so I think he veered off quite a bit, and I go like, what are you doing here? He goes like, oh, I searched boot looping, and this is what it told me to do. I go, well, you're probably veered off a little bit here. I go, we got to break this down. So we broke it down a little bit. I go, is your problem with the host system or the guest system that you're running? And I go, the guest system, right? Okay, so we probably don't need to deal with anything with your Windows host that's currently running, right? So let's kind of separate that out. And then, I talked through the boot medium that he used and the install image that he was using. And I go, so when you did your search, did you specify that you were doing this in VirtualBox, that it was virtualized, that it's pfSense or anything like that, And he didn't. So I go, maybe try that. And so we kind of walked through it, and obviously he found it really quick, and he just needed to eject the boot medium fourth installer, and then everything worked fine, and he, clunked his head and go, oh, okay, I get it now, right? And so I'm just looking at that and comparing that to some of my children here. This is Jake, one of my other sons, in between these two. And I see him, and his older brother has a phone. He's 11, and we don't give our kids phones till they hit 13, so they're 13. And so he's 11. He doesn't have a phone. He has a laptop at the time. I know he has a tablet there. That came a little later. And his older brother, Sam, who's, again, in between them, he played this game called Brawl Stars, right? And apparently you can only play it on mobile devices. They don't allow you to play it. And he has a Windows laptop. And his brother, he wanted to play with his brother, right? And so on his own initiative, he went and found an Android emulator of some kind, downloaded it, learned how to install the game into the emulator, and play it then on his Windows machine, right? And then he was able to play with his brother. I didn't even know he did that. It wasn't until, honestly, a few weeks ago, because now he has the tablet, I go, why don't you play that on your computer anymore? He goes, oh, I'm not really supposed to. They don't want you to, right? I go like, because it's only a mobile game. I go, well, if it was a mobile game, how did you play it on your... And then he explained the whole process to me, and I go like, that's brilliant, right? You found a workaround for what you wanted to do. And just comparing that then to some of my students who struggle with some of the critical thinking and problem-solving skills, and maybe what's happening that's different. Obviously I don't know every of my students' background or anything else and kind of where they're coming from. And so we thought we'd just share some of these stories. So our presentation today will be kind of a hodgepodge of things, right? Just several stories that we have. Both Anthony and Becca will provide some demonstrations and then share some examples of real-world applications they've done in their life and workaround and things like that, just so you understand kind of where we're coming from. I'm going to cover a few things here, things that I just have thought about as I've kind of was putting this together and going, what do I want to share? What do I do differently that maybe someone else, I don't know. But this is, again, just what I do and what we do with me and my wife. But I want to start about what I mean by hacker. And really, it's the hacking culture, right? So the hacking culture of creatively overcoming limitations that you face, right? Specifically software, electronics. But to be honest, this can be applied to other things, right? Any problem in life, you can kind of follow this workflow or this framework to help critically think through things and problem solve, right? And I love this, to creatively and come up with new, novel, and clever outcomes, right? And that's what my son did, trying to play Brawl Stars, right, with his older brother. And so this is what our focus is. And it really, again, it just comes down to problem solving, right? Are we problem solving? How can we break that problem down, think through it, and find a solution. So we don't just veer way off, kind of like the example of my student who was just kind of way off a tangent somewhere. There are a lot of these frameworks that are out there, and again, I don't know if I follow this framework exactly the way it is. This is just one I found. I modified it a little bit. And a lot of these frameworks I've seen for problem solving, they're all very similar anyways, right? And so, but it is something to just kind of always keep in the back of your mind when you are facing a child who's having a problem, to understand at least some type of steps to work through, right? And so, kind of using my student as an example here, the first step here is identifying the problem. Well, did he truly identify the problem? I don't know if he did, right? He struggled a little bit, and that's kind of what veered him off. Then breaking down the problem into smaller pieces, right? That's pretty universal, right? When you're overwhelmed or have a large problem and you want to solve something, you break it down into smaller pieces. Like, I had to break down that when I was explaining it to my student, right? Well, is it your host system or is it your guest system that's having the problem, right? So let's focus on that. We're breaking it down a little bit. And then coming up with possible solutions. Yeah, and this is one thing that I see a lot with my students, particularly those who struggle with some of these skills. Like I said, most of my students are pretty good. It's just this, I don't know what percentage it is that struggle with this. But when I suggest to them to search for certain things, like one student, he searched for boot looping and then went and jumped into the first top link that was there. He didn't really look through the contents of the link. And that's something I've noticed with a lot of my students right now. These are 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds who have grown up in the digital age, and we say they're really good with technology and they're really good with things, right? Who are struggling with this. And so it just made me kind of think through that thing, that you need to look at a lot of different solutions first, reason through those solutions then, right? And those potential outcomes. Well, if I do this, what do I think the outcome would be? And kind of get that abstractness and that critical thinking forward as to what will be the result, right? I don't know, that's a key thing that's there. And then trying out a solution, right? Once you've reasoned through it, try out the solution, and if you fail, that's okay. You just eliminated one and you go on to the next. So anyway, that's just a framework here. Now, this is a problem that I've seen that I think contributes to some of this. This is all anecdotal, so I'm not here to solve some big world problems like this, but I found the statistic. This is according to the National Center of Education, and they said that 54%, over half of adults, cannot read and or comprehend at a 6th grade reading level. That's astonishing. That's half my students. So how can I expect them, right? I think I should expect them, they're in a college course, right? But if they don't, and particularly technical instructions, right? When I'm teaching technology type of classes, and which I think kind of increases that level, right? And so this is an outstanding thing. I think this is, and I don't know what the reason for it is. I don't know. I'm not here to answer this question or solve this problem. I wish I could, but I don't have all the answers. But I'm just showing the statistic to show that maybe this is a cause of maybe why we sometimes have this problem of being able to critically think, right? So I've researched this a little bit. This comes from the World Literacy Foundation, that people with low level of literacy have limited ability to make important informed decisions in everyday life and struggle with basic tasks. Think back to the example of my student. Just thinking through, and I don't know what I haven't measured his reading level or anything like that, but just thinking through some common tasks and how that works. And if you can't do that, I can see how it's a struggle, right? Now, I don't think, that my student was necessarily ignorant or dumb. He just maybe didn't have that skill or that training, right? And it just means they might have to work a little harder or just like everybody else does with things that they're struggling with. One thing that we've tried to do, we do try to start our kids reading as early as we possibly can, even before they start school. Most of our kids go into kindergarten reading a little bit and things like that. Our kids tend to be very strong readers. We read with them at night, we read together, and they read really good stuff. Becca loves the Harry Potter series and goes through that. And so it's really important to kind of build that foundation. At least that's what we have found, to help with that. And as it says here, particularly asking questions as you read, right? So again, this comes from Ohio State. They did a research, and they said that asking questions while reading fosters active engagement with text. Questioning after reading can check comprehension and encourage the transfer of application of knowledge. And isn't that what we want? We want the application of knowledge for these students, right? And for our children. All right. I know most of you guys aren't here to hear me. You're here to hear my kids. So we'll talk a little bit about some things that they've done, and they'll share some experiences about playing games. I am not a gamer. I don't play games, but all my kids do. I just tend to get bored with them, I guess, or I'm also busy. So they're going to share a few things here and some of the things that they do with games and how that has helped them with a few things. So the first thing, I'm going to turn this over to Anthony. He'll talk a little bit about chess. But so I did find this quote about chess, and I'm not a very good chess player either. I think Anthony could clean my clock in chess. But he plays a lot on his phone, as well as his two younger brothers as well. They play all the time on their phone, and you can play with your friends over the phone, which I couldn't do growing up, which is really kind of cool. So, but look at the qualities that you learn by playing chess, right? Analyze situations by focusing on important factors, eliminating distractions, devising creative solutions. Isn't that what we're trying to do, right? And put a plan in action. Learn to use creative thinking skills in real-world scenarios. That's what you want to hire, right? That's who you want working for you. That's what you want people in their life to help become better problem solvers in everyday life. So I'll have Anthony share a few moments about his experience playing chess.
So I've played chess a lot, as he said, and I found it's a very good kind of game or even like training tool to work on your problem solving and even how you hack. If you have a difficult problem and you have to think through it and devise a strategy and plan and follow out and reassess if that doesn't go to plan, and just quick thinking on your feet are all aspects that chess teaches. You learn all these set skills and ideas, but you can't always follow just those ideas. You have to piece them together or come up with your own and figure out how to get to your end goal, no matter what may happen in the middle. And it's just important to learn these things, and it's also a really fun way to do it instead of having to do some grueling hard tasks that you don't want to do. It can help in a fun way.
All right, Minecraft. Becca's going to show you a few things here that she does in Minecraft. I think everyone has heard of Minecraft, right? Well, your kids probably play with it. I don't think there's anything new or novel we're going to show you, but it will show you some critical thinking. Normally in Minecraft, you build things and destroy things one block at a time. What Becca's going to show you and demonstrate is how she can build an entire wall, very thick, very tall, in just a few different commands that she can do. Okay, so that's what she's going to demonstrate. We recorded this, and so she'll kind of walk you through the recording of kind of what she's doing here.
So I going to dig down to get, go get the commands. So it's gonna take a while because I needed to write it down to remember it. So I need the commands to build the block. So the block, it knows where to go, I guess. And then yeah, so that it's right, at the XYZ, and then I need to go to a higher place to get the height of the block, and I need to get the coordinates here also. And that's still at the XYZ. I'm going to make a test block so I know where it's going to be, I guess, to see if it's in the right spot. And the command is /fill, and then I need to type in the coordinates so that I could place a block. I will just do magenta wool. And then I just made a block. And now I need to go back to the hole and do the coordinates from the tree again. And I just press the up arrow to do that command again. And then I made a giant block, wool block. Yeah. Next, I'm going to get rid of the block. It really fast instead of just one by one. I'm going to need to find the coordinates again. So I pressed F3 to find my coordinates, and then I'm going right here to get the height. Then I need to write down these coordinates. Coordinates are right here, X, Y, Z. Then I'm going to the other side so I can get rid of it. And I need that again. And then write down those coordinates. Once I wrote them down, I'll come up and then get all the coordinates, go to the high part again, and then type in my coordinates and do fill/fill. And then I need to type in the coordinates from where the ground is to set it to air. I needed to turn on cheats first. And then I'll turn it to air. And now it's gone. And it was 1,119 blocks.
All right, so as you see, just kind of creative ways to build these big block structures and get rid of them. And she built this little crater, and if she went on, she'd show you how it builds a mine, because she built the wall into the ground, right, at a certain level, which is pretty cool. All right, we have let's see here. Oh, yeah, let's show you the crow pie here. So we have some videos here. Anyone heard of the crow pie? Really cool device. So we have one here if anyone wants to ever check it out. It's a really cool educational device where it's run by a Raspberry Pi. So you just slide this off here, you pop in your Raspberry Pi, and it runs off that. It also comes with a bunch of tutorials and lessons in there in different formats and at different skill levels. One of them I know, you get the instructions as if you're chatting with someone or texting with somebody on the right, and then you write your code over on the left, and it just kind of walks you through it. And it's really kind of cool. And it built in underneath the keyboard, there's a bunch of sensors and panels and output devices. And, you know, as you can see, there's a LED matrix and other things like that. So we have some videos here where we can show you where Rebekah's kind of interacting and some of the things that she was able to do. Talk about what you're doing here.
Right now, I am going to make it check itself, like, on that screen. Yeah. Yeah, so this has music, but we muted it. So there are sensors like right where, and then on the LED like matrix thing where you see the lights flashing is where, so the distance sensors are sensing my hand's distance and making a song with the LEDs and the speaker. This one is the NFC card where I could play a song on it. I chose a number and then it plays a song, but it's muted. So it says confirm and success. And then it played a song. This one is I put all those wires into the board and made blinking lights with the LEDs. So the lights are blinking.
The crow pie has been just fun to have, and it's not necessarily cheap, but it's fun to have around, and can do a lot of really cool things. Another thing that Rebekah has done, and then we'll kind of turn some time over to Anthony, is these Crunch Labs. So your kids probably know about Mark Rober. He's a really popular YouTuber. He, I think, worked for NASA as an engineer. I think helped with some of the Mars rovers or something like that. And so he has this great once-a-month kit that he will send to you that we have subscribed for. And Rebekah can kind of show you some of the things that she built with these kits to hope his goal is to help build engineers, right? How to problem solve and work through engineering problems through fun, creative things. So we have a few videos, just really small clips of some of the things that she's done with that.
So here I'm making a domino catapult, and we'll show the video like after this. Well, now then. Those were all the things that were needed for it. And then here's a ball shooter. So that when you pull that string, it has a little attachment that comes apart. And then there's these little like kind of things that push all these balls out as soon as you pull it. So then it's a ball shooter. And here's one with my dad, I guess. And so I clipped it to the door handle, and when he opened the door, it shut. This one is the domino catapult. So I bounce the ball on one, it goes to another, which launches another one, which launches another one, which, yeah.
So you can see she has a lot of fun with those activities that she's built. I think we're a little bit behind on time here, so I'm going to try and speed through things here a little bit. Well, another thing that we do is we're trying to build basic concepts too. And so these are some concepts that we play around with our kids. Most of our kids run Linux. I try and introduce them to the terminal just so it's not a scary thing for them. We talk about networking. Anthony has taken some networking classes, has some pretty good networking skills. Becca will show you a demonstration where she opens up a web console and looks at some JavaScript. Anyway, there's some encryption aspects to things and everything else. Let's see. We probably need to get ahead to Anthony's. So I'm going to skip some of these and jump to kind of Anthony's presentation here. So one cool thing, particularly for Nebraska and Iowa, is if you can get your high schoolers into some of these college courses. I know Nebraska just has a thing right now because I teach here in Nebraska, but high schoolers can take any community college course for free, anytime, any course they want. And there's similar programs in Iowa, and I'm sure in some other states as well. And so Anthony's been taking courses at Metro, where I work, since he was 13. There's no age minimum, as long as they're mature enough or can handle the content that's there. Anthony's a pretty bright kid. He's a lot smarter than me. And so he's taken a few of these courses. So he'll talk about some of these courses and also give a short demonstration on some things he's learned, particularly with John the Ripper.
So these are a few of the classes that are offered at like MCC and all over. And I've taken the Linux class, which really helps just teach you how the system works and how to even administrate that system. Cloud services, it's very helpful to just learn how servers work, web servers, and how we interact with these. Programming, it kind of explains itself, but it helps you learn how things run. PC repair, I'm actually running a little PC repair shop in my town, and we fix people's computers, and I've learned this through these A+ classes that were offered. Cisco networking, they're really helpful to get your CCNA, and with MCC they have a program where you can get your CCNA through taking these courses, and cybersecurity is just the funnest one and the best one, and really enjoy it. So up here I have a demonstration of John the Ripper. It's just something I've been interested in, and decided to learn about looking at documentation, looking at forms, and it's a really cool tool. So John the Ripper, it is a password cracking tool. It cracks encrypted password hashes. It has 3 different modes. First one is single crack mode, which takes user data and like the username from a password file and just uses any information it can to try and guess the password based on that. So if your password is your last name and 123, single crack mode cracks that. So second mode is wordless mode, which you input a word list, which are usually huge, and it runs through and sees if any of those passwords match your password. And then the final one is incremental or brute force. This one is the most resource intensive. It just guesses as many passwords as it can to try and solve your password. So here I'm going to try and do a demonstration with these 3 different user passwords I have. Yeah. So we'll go to the console, and first the command for John the Ripper is just John. And if we look at the help, you'll be able to see all the different kinds of things you can do. Here's single, which is what you use to do the single word attack. You have word list, and then you have incremental, should be down here, right there. So all of these, there's so many different, it's such a versatile tool, and you can really change anything you need. But, so the first one we're going to do is we're going to test this. Here, I will show it. So here we have a password hash under a user named test. So what we can do is we can try and crack this using John -- single and then the password file, and it will try and come up with something using single, which is by using the name. And as you can see, that took 4 seconds, and it guessed test1. That's just a quick proof of concept. But so using username, it only took just a few seconds to figure out that. So the second one I want to show you is the word list one, and we're going to be using a really large word list. I'm going to show you how large it is actually. It has over like 14 million passwords in this. So it is a gigantic word list. If you try to open it up in a text editor, it takes like forever to load. And if we look, I have the password of this next account, and we'll see how far down it is. So if we list and we search for this password, which is the next user's password, in the Rocky text, it's 22,000 and almost 23,000 lines down. So we'll see how quickly it can go through all of those lines and find that. So we'll go John -- word list equals Rocky, and it will be. So here, it will, if I press any key, it can give you a status. And what it does here is it shows the time, and it can show you how many tracks per second it's doing. And it also shows which passwords it is trying through those. So, and it managed to crack that in 15 seconds, which really fast. And then this next one, we're going to use incremental mode, where it is just brute forcing, guessing everything it can. So if we do John -- incremental, and what's helpful with this is you can choose different incremental modes. For this one, I know this account is only numbers. So I could type in incremental digits. There's also one for uppercase letters, lowercase letters. There's many different options. And then we choose the file, and it should be correcting it here soon. And here we are. So it cracks all these passwords relatively quickly. They are short passwords, but this is a laptop, so it is kind of just watch your passwords, because someone could get them. And final one I'm going to do is actually a more real-life example, where if we list, I have a copy of the shadow file of this. So with all passwords that would be sensitive removed. And we can see this is what an actual shadow file looks like. And here we have this user, Johnny. So we don't want to try and crack for any of these other ones. So we just want to crack for Johnny. So what we can do is we can do -- we'll do first. Let me show this. If we look at this word list, I'm going to use another technique. This is a really short word list, and I'm going to use this one, but the password is not on this word list at all. We can use word mangling. So it is going to change its passwords by changing capitalization, adding numbers, and moving them around to try and guess the password. So it's some variation of one of those passwords. And what we can do is we can do John word list is word list 2. We only want to crack for Johnny. And then we want to use rules, so that will enable all the word mangling rules. And then we choose file. And we see as this drawing is incorrect. So you can see it got that almost immediately. It's just all caps of one of these. So, yeah, that is my short little demonstration of John the Ripper. It was just something I was interested in, but it all starts with things like with Rebekah's Minecraft. That's how I got into actually doing these things. I would play around with those commands, get to more and more complicated things, and then learn some coding languages like Python, and then get more and more things. So it all starts out with a small thing, and you can keep going, yeah.
Thank you. So I hope you kind of see the growth of what's happening, between Becca and through Anthony, her older brother. We're kind of a little late on time here. We have a lot more stories and demonstrations, but we just don't have the time for it. And we do want to leave some time for questions as well. I think we'll do one more. You want to do the cookie clicker? Which one do we do? She wants to do terminal stuff. Okay, she'll show you some of the things she does in the terminal. All right? Let's come here. So we'll kind of end with some of this demonstration from Becca.
So I will first start off with say pretty basic fun thing that you could do that is basically like a cow that you could program to speak. So I'll do this demonstration. And then it's just a cow that said hello. So, and another thing is you could do cow say -L for a list of all the different things that you could do instead of a cow. And for example, you could do, I like elephant, so I guess you have to do -F elephant, and then say whatever you want to say. Yeah, an elephant said hot. And so that's cow say. Next, I want to show you is C matrix. So C matrix is kind of like the classic hacker screen. So, yeah. And you can make it rainbow, bold, and Q to quit. So I'll show you just normal and then B, bold. So, and then C matrix, and then -H shows the other, it means help. So you could do -A, -B for bold letters. And then you could also, and for color, you could do C matrix -C, and then cyan. And now it's cyan. And then you could also do the color and speed. So you could do -U, for example, one would go really fast. Or you could do -10. It'd go really slow. That's C matrix. And then now LOL cat, it just makes things rainbow, I guess. So we'll just do it on the cow say, and we'll do pipe, and then LOL cat, and then it makes a rainbow. Different rainbow, so that's LOL cat. And then another thing I would like to show you is C bonsai. It's just like a bonsai tree that is on your computer, I guess. Just a bonsai tree. So, yeah.
Thank you, Becca. So I think we're pretty much at our time, but we did want to leave for questions if anyone had questions. Yeah. Oh, the Spider-Man one? You can see. Let's see here. Oops. Oh, I missed it. I mean, one thing I'll show you. I mean, if you looked at, Becca's very comfortable with this, scrolling through her command history. Yeah, it's really big. There you go. There it is. And I know these are just fun things, right? But there's no intimidation of using a shell, right? Very comfortable with it at 10 years old. So, and she just thinks it's fun. Any other questions or? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't want to say it. It's preference. I got 5 kids, and to be honest, I think anybody who has multiple kids, you're a little stricter with the oldest one. Anthony knows that. And then with the younger ones, you loosen up a little bit. So we've kind of, we haven't been very consistent with that. So I don't know. Yeah. 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 Yeah, Becca, I don't know, Anthony was doing Scratch early. How old were you when you were doing Scratch?
Probably like 7 or 8. I mean, as soon as they can show interest and if they can read and they can start figuring it out, like Scratch it's really beginner friendly. You can start as soon as you can read what the words say.
So we kind of started out with Scratch and then left on to Python's, a really good transition after that. So, yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Yeah. No, it gets, it does get a little tough. There's the pie hole. We do also have a router that has an application on it where you can pause internet, and turn that off. That usually gets them off. When they're younger, we just use a password and we don't tell them the password. We have to physically log them on, and so that's the way we've managed it. Yes. Yeah. A little bit, yeah. Usually with their teachers, because I'm saying it very bold. I go, Becca, you're a hacker. You do these things, and she very proudly goes to school and says she's a hacker. And what have your teachers thought when you said that? No. Yeah. So I mean, there's some education. I went to go speak when 2nd grade with Mrs. Hart. And so talked about that stuff. So I just educated the teacher at the time. Like, hacker is this culture, right? About solving problems and things like that. So it's just having a conversation, usually is the way we've kind of handled it. Yeah. Yes. This is just my, it's my Linux laptop. It's running Manjaro, if you want to know what version of Linux. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's been about, it's hard for me. Like, I want all my kids to do this, and I have 2 up here, and I have 5, right? So I have some that just aren't interested in it. I mean, Jake isn't really interested in the hacking and the security aspect of things, but obviously he has those skills. He's the guy that did the Brawl Stars and found that Android, emulator and things like that. But and my other son Sam, we've tried to introduce him to some programming, and he's just not interested in it. I mean, I add some slides later on where we just talk about you gotta let your kids choose, and that's just basic, type of parenting, and support them with what they're interested in. Hopefully they have lots of interest. I mean, Anthony's a great musician. He's in band and choir, and he really loves that and very passionate about that. And Becca as well with her art and things like that as well. So, anyway, I don't know if that answered your question or not. Yeah. Thank you. And like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm like any other parent, just trying to figure things out myself. So, any other questions anyone has? All right. If not, we're available to talk. If you guys want to come and check out the Crunch Labs or the Crow Pie, thank you so much for coming. They'll be available afterwards. So, thank you very much.